The silver diplomatic vessel drifted toward Earth, its engines barely humming as it matched orbit. Ambassador Tak stood at the viewport, his four-fingered hand pressed against the clear barrier. Below him swirled the blue-green world, wrapped in wispy white clouds. He had visited hundreds of worlds in his long career, but something about this one made his skin prickle with unease. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Officer Jun, joining him at the window. The young science officer's eyes reflected the planet's glow. "Beauty often hides danger," Tak replied softly. He turned from the viewport. "Show me the readings again." They moved to the command center where Captain Hana waited. The holographic display lit up with Earth's vital statistics. Tak studied them in silence, his brow furrowing. Gravity much higher than our homeworld, extreme temperature variations, significant radiation levels from their star. He looked up, and the oxygen levels should make the atmosphere nearly combustible by our standards. June nodded. By consortium classifications, Earth is a death world. Most species would find it hostile to life. Yet they thrive, Captain Hana observed, leaning forward. Not just survive. Thrive. Look at these population numbers. Tak studied the readouts of human vital signs. Incredible metabolic efficiency, dense musculature, rapid healing capabilities. He paused at one reading. "Is this correct? They can remain active for 16 hours or more without rest." "Confirmed," said June. "And they recover from injuries that would be fatal to most consortium species." Captain Hana added, "Their historical records show constant warfare, yet incredible technological advancement despite this. They've developed spaceflight while still fighting among themselves." Tak felt a cold sensation in his abdomen. "The Council will want to proceed carefully. These humans could be dangerous. Or valuable allies," Hana suggested. "Their resilience could be an asset." 3 days later, Tak led the first official delegation to Earth's surface. Despite preparation, the gravity pulled at his limbs like invisible weights. The oxygen-rich air made him lightheaded. How could anything evolve to find this comfortable? The meeting room in Geneva had been carefully prepared, temperature and lighting adjusted for consortium comfort. Tak noted this thoughtfulness but remained wary. The humans entered, walking with an ease that seemed impossible under such gravity. Dr. Elena Martinez led the human delegation. Tak observed her carefully. Small by human standards, she still stood taller than any member of the consortium team. Her movements were quick and precise, a predator's efficiency, he thought. "We welcome you to Earth," she said, her voice measured and calm. Her facial muscles arranged themselves in what Tak recognized as a smile. A gesture that originally displayed teeth as a threat, but had evolved into a social signal. The contradiction seemed fitting. "We are pleased to establish contact," Tak replied carefully. "Your world is quite remarkable." The meeting proceeded with exchanges of basic information. The humans seemed eager, curious, asking questions about consortium worlds and cultures. Tak noted their quick minds, how rapidly they absorbed new concepts. During a brief recess, Tak managed to stand despite the crushing gravity. His legs trembled with the effort. A human aide noticed his struggle and stepped forward. "Would you like assistance, Ambassador?" the human asked. "No," Tak said quickly, perhaps too sharply. The human stepped back, respecting his space. Tak noted this with interest. Despite their physical advantages, they showed restraint. After 4 hours, the Earth delegation suggested a break. "You must be tired," Dr. Martinez said. "We can continue tomorrow." Tak was exhausted, his body strained beyond its limits, but he noticed the humans showed no signs of fatigue. They could clearly continue for hours more. Back on their ship, the consortium delegation gathered to share observations. "They move so quickly," Officer Jun said. "Their response times are nearly twice ours." "Did you notice their hands?" Captain Hana asked. "Perfect for both delicate manipulation and forming fists, tools and weapons." Tak sank into a chair, relieved to be in the ship's adjusted gravity. They've evolved on a world that would kill most of us within days. Their bodies are built to endure punishment, their minds to overcome challenges. He paused. And they've developed advanced technology, despite spending much of their history at war with themselves. What does that suggest to you? Hannah asked quietly. That if they ever united against an outside threat. Tak didn't finish the thought. The room fell silent. Finally, Joan spoke, but they seemed friendly. Curious about us, not hostile. Apex predators don't always attack immediately, Tak said. They assess. They wait for the right moment. Or perhaps they simply wish to join the galactic community, Hannah suggested. Not every species follows the same path. Tak considered this. Perhaps, but we must proceed with caution. The Council has already approved their probationary membership. Political considerations outweighed security concerns. Then we must make the most of it, Hannah said. Better to have these humans as allies than potential enemies. Later that night, unable to sleep, Tak watched recordings of human history. Wars and peace, cruelty and compassion, destruction and creation. Such contradictions. Most consortium species evolved clear survival strategies. Flee from danger, hide from predators. Humans had evolved to face threats head-on, to challenge the impossible. He wondered what would happen when humans learned more about the galaxy, when they discovered that most sentient species evolved as prey, not predators, when they realized how unique, how dangerous they truly were. Let us hope we haven't made a terrible mistake, he whispered to himself as Earth turned slowly below the ship, beautiful and deadly in the darkness of space. Security Chief Da stood in the observation room of Space Station Harmony, his eyes fixed on the monitor screens. The station hung in orbit around a gas giant, its curved halls and chambers home to over 2,000 beings from across the consortium. Among them lived nearly 200 humans, the newest members of the galactic community. 3 years had passed since first contact. 3 years of learning, adapting, and watching. On the main screen, Da replayed footage from the previous day's incident. A coolant pipe had ruptured in the lower engineering section, threatening to shut down life support for an entire residential segment. The station's safety systems had sealed the area, trapping 3 maintenance workers inside. The footage showed a human engineer named Jiho breaking through the safety locks. Against all protocols, he entered the contaminated section. For 30 hours, he worked to repair the damage, breathing through a basic filter mask that offered minimal protection from the toxic fumes. Pause there, Dai said to the computer. The image froze, showing Jiho's face. Despite obvious exhaustion and chemical burns on his exposed skin, the human's eyes remained alert, focused on the task. Medical Officer Quan entered the room, carrying a data tablet. You wanted my assessment. Day nodded without looking away from the screen. How is he still functioning at this point? The toxin levels should have incapacitated him hours earlier. Quan moved closer to the screen. Humans have remarkable filtration organs, lungs, liver, kidneys. They process toxins efficiently. But more importantly, they simply continue. Even when their bodies signal distress, they can choose to ignore the signals. They don't stop, Daz said softly. Even when damaged, they continue functioning. Precisely. Quan scrolled through data on his tablet. Jiho suffered chemical burns to his airways, skin damage, and extreme fatigue. Yet he completed the repairs before seeking medical attention. No other consortium species could have done this, Da noted. Quan's expression darkened. Their psychological profile explains it. They evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They're biologically programmed to push beyond normal limits. Da had studied Earth's wildlife documentaries with horrified fascination. Other predators relied on ambush or superior speed. Humans simply followed, relentlessly, for days if necessary, until their prey, faster but lacking stamina, finally collapsed. They bring this same mindset to everything, Quan continued. Problems, challenges, conflicts. They don't give up. Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp alert tone. The station's communication system activated, and Commander Tay's voice filled the room. "Attention all personnel. We have received a distress signal from Research Outpost Sigma. They are under attack by raiders from the Merak Collective. We need volunteers for a rescue operation. The mission carries significant risk. Report to Docking Bay 3F." Commander Ta didn't finish the announcement. The system registered so many immediate responses that it temporarily overloaded. Day rushed to the docking bay. A crowd had already gathered, nearly every human aboard the station. They stood together, faces serious but not fearful. Some were military personnel, but many were scientists, engineers, even kitchen staff. "We can't send all of you," Commander Ta said, clearly overwhelmed by the response. "Then send the best of us," said Sarah, an Earth diplomat. "But we're all going to help prepare." Within an hour, a rescue team departed, 12 humans and 6 consortium specialists. Dai watched them go, then returned to the command center to monitor the operation. The footage that came back would change the consortium's understanding of their new allies forever. The Merak raiders had expected minimal resistance. Research Outpost Sigma housed primarily scientists and their families. Instead, they encountered humans who moved with startling speed and coordination. The rescue teams split into smaller units, each with clear objectives. They evacuated civilians first, moving them to secure areas. Then they systematically neutralized the threat. Ambassador Tak joined Dai in the command center. They watched in silence as the humans engaged the raiders. There was no hesitation in their movements. They used improvised weapons when necessary. They protected the wounded. Most disturbing to Dai was their expressions. Focused, determined, almost satisfied. "They're enjoying this," Dai whispered. Tak didn't respond immediately. On screen, a human medic treated an injured scientist while simultaneously giving directions to others. Despite bleeding from a wound in her arm, she worked efficiently, her hand steady. When the last raider was captured or neutralized, the humans didn't celebrate wildly. They simply regrouped, tended their wounded, and began helping with repairs to the damaged outpost. Most species in the consortium evolved as prey. Tak finally said to Da, "We ran, we hid, we survived by avoiding danger. Humans evolved as apex predators, and now they walk among us." Da considered this. "Should we fear them?" "I'm not certain," Tak admitted. "Today they fought to protect others, not just themselves." Later, when the rescue team returned to Harmony, Dai observed their reception. Other humans greeted them with restrained pride. The rescued scientists regarded them with a mixture of gratitude and awe. Several consortium species kept a noticeable distance. Jai-Ho, still recovering from his earlier injuries, approached Sarah as she disembarked. "Did everyone make it?" he asked. "All civilians safe," she confirmed. "2 of our team injured, but they'll recover." Jai-Ho nodded, satisfied. Dan noticed how the 2 humans clasped forearms briefly, a gesture between equals, between pack members. That night, Dai added a new observation to his ongoing report about human integration. They are predators, yes, but they consider those under their protection to be part of their pack. The question remains, will the consortium always be part of that pack, or one day become their prey? On the medical deck, Officer Quan treated the returning humans. He couldn't help noticing how quickly their wounds were already beginning to heal. The Grand Council chamber of the Consortium Central Council gleamed under soft blue lights. 47 representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising tiers around the central speaking floor. Today, the usual calm of diplomatic discussion had given way to fear. "The Veric have taken Helios Prime," announced Councillor Jun, her voice tight with strain. The holographic display above the floor showed a star map with 3 systems marked in angry red. "That makes 3 consortium worlds conquered in just 2 months. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Veric Empire had existed at the edges of known space for centuries, rarely troubling the peaceful consortium. Now, suddenly, they had turned aggressive, their warships cutting through consortium defenses with ease. "Their next target is clear," Jum continued, pointing to a station marked at a key intersection of trade routes. "Junction Station. Our intelligence suggests they will attack within 3 weeks." The display shifted to show Junction Station, a massive structure hanging in space, home to over 10,000 beings and a critical hub for trade, connecting 17 systems. "If they take Junction Station," Jun said, "they will control access to our central trade routes. Half our worlds will be cut off." Silence fell over the council. Defense had never been the consortium's strength. Throughout its long history, diplomacy and trade had resolved most conflicts. The Veric, however, had rejected all communication attempts. "We must evacuate the station," suggested Councillor Ta. "We don't have enough ships to defend it." "Evacuation would take too long," countered another voice, "and abandoning such a strategic position would be disastrous." From the human delegation section, a figure rose. Commander Park had been Earth's military representative for just 8 months. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate dress of the consortium councillors. "My people will defend the station," he said simply. The council chamber erupted in voices. "Impossible. How many ships can Earth provide?" "This is not just Earth's concern." Councillor Ba, known for his careful analysis, raised his hand for silence. When the room quieted, he addressed Park directly. "Commander, with respect, it would be suicide. Our projections show the Veric will send at least 30 warships. Earth has only 7 ships capable of space combat, and they are primitive by comparison." Commander Park smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression, more like a predator showing its teeth. Several councillors shifted uncomfortably. "Humans specialize in beating overwhelming odds," Ark said. "Give us command of Junction Station's defense. We will hold it." Ambassador Tak studied Park carefully. The loss of life could be enormous. "Yes," Park agreed simply. "War brings death, but retreat brings more death later, on worse terms." He looked around the chamber. "The Veric believe you are weak because you prefer peace. They have not yet learned what happens when humans choose war." After hours of heated debate, the council voted. By a narrow margin, they approved Park's request. Earth would lead Junction Station's defense. Most councillors expected it to be a brave but futile last stand. 2 weeks later, the Veric fleet approached Junction Station. Their advanced scouts reported minimal defensive preparations. Just as their intelligence had predicted, the consortium lacked the military resources to properly defend the station. Victory seemed assured. The Veric commander, General Kraz, felt almost disappointed. His forces had swept through consortium space with barely any resistance. Where was the challenge worthy of his warriors? As his fleet moved into attack position, Kraz noticed something odd. The station's outer sensor array had been reconfigured. Several sections appeared damaged or under repair. Sloppy, he thought, typical of the soft consortium species. The first hint that something was wrong came when 3 of his scout ships failed to report back. Then communication with his right flank squadron suddenly cut off. Before Kraz could investigate, the space around Junction Station erupted with weapons fire, not from the station itself, but from what appeared to be chunks of debris floating nearby. Hidden fighters, disguised as wreckage, attacked from all directions at once. The Veric ships, arranged in their standard attack formation, found themselves caught in a carefully planned crossfire. On the bridge of his command ship, Kraz snarled in surprise. "Who dares?" he demanded as his tactical display showed confusion spreading through his fleet. The answer came in the form of a transmission from the station. A human face appeared on screen. Commander Park. "General Kraz," Park said calmly, "this is your only warning. Withdraw now or be destroyed." Kraz laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Your deception was clever, human, but my fleet outnumbers your forces 10 to 1. Surrender the station, and I may let some of you live as slaves." Park's expression didn't change. "You were warned." The transmission ended. What followed was like nothing the Veric had experienced in centuries of warfare. The humans didn't fight according to any recognizable doctrine. They used the station itself as a weapon, venting plasma at precise moments to create screens for their fighters. They turned off life support in sections to conserve power for weapons. They set traps, ambushes, and false targets. Most disturbing to the Veric was the humans' endurance. The battle stretched from hours into days. When Veric warriors needed rest, the humans kept fighting. They took stimulants. They worked in shifts. They simply refused to stop. On the third day, with nearly half his fleet destroyed or disabled, General Kraz faced the unthinkable. Retreat. They are demons, his second-in-command whispered, looking at footage of human fighters still attacking despite injuries that would incapacitate any Veric warrior. Kraz gave the order to withdraw. As his damaged fleet limped away from Junction Station, he vowed revenge. But deep inside, something he hadn't felt in years stirred. Doubt. News of the victory spread quickly through the consortium. Day, now promoted to consortium military analyst, reviewed the battle recordings with a mixture of awe and unease. They fight differently, he explained to the emergency council session, not just with strength, but with cunning and endurance. They made the station itself into a weapon. They changed tactics constantly. They simply never gave up. He paused. They regard the impossible merely as a challenge. In the Central Council, the debate about humanity's role intensified. Some councilors feared this display of martial prowess. Others saw an opportunity to strengthen the consortium's position. They are dangerous, argued Councillor Ba. Today they fought for us. But what about tomorrow? Ambassador Tak rose slowly. Today, they bled for us, he said quietly. We asked them to hold an impossible position, expecting them to fail. Instead, they succeeded, and at great cost. He looked around the chamber. 217 humans died defending Junction Station. They died protecting people they had only just met, worlds they had never seen. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy was changing. The comfortable peace the consortium had enjoyed for generations was ending. And humanity, unpredictable, resilient, terrifying humanity, might be their best hope for survival. Captain Sun walked slowly along the line of her crew members. The training room of the human vessel Defiance had been cleared for this briefing. 40 beings stood at attention. 20 humans and 20 non-humans from 7 different consortium species. Some had exoskeletons, some had 4 eyes, some breathed through gills. All wore the new Joint Service uniform with the Earth Consortium Alliance patch. Look at the person next to you, Sun said, her voice firm, but not harsh. They may not share your biology. They may not share your homeworld. But from today, they share your fate. She stopped before a tall, insectoid Ravi whose mandibles clicked nervously. Next to him stood a human technician half his height. Specialist Lee, Sun addressed the human. What is your duty to Technician Krell beside you? Lee stood straighter. To protect him in battle. To understand his strengths and compensate for his vulnerabilities. To trust him to do the same for me. Sun nodded. And you, Technician Krell? The Ravi's translator conveyed his reply with mechanical precision. To use my superior visual range to spot threats. To share information quickly. To remember that humans cannot see behind them without turning. Sun smiled. Good. You're learning. She moved to the center of the room, where a holographic display activated. It showed traditional consortium defensive formations. Neat, orderly, predictable. The traditional consortium military doctrine emphasizes defensive positioning, she explained. The Veric expect this. We will not give them what they expect. With a gesture, she changed the display. Now it showed fluid, asymmetrical patterns. Attack vectors that seemed random but contained hidden purpose. Humans evolved hunting in packs. Sun continued. Not with overwhelming strength, but with communication, coordination, and persistence. We will teach you to fight as we do, and you will teach us your unique abilities. Over the next 6 months, similar scenes played out across the border regions. The Consortium Council, impressed by the defense of Junction Station, had authorized a bold new initiative. Human military advisors established training centers on 12 worlds. Mixed species units formed, combining the diversity of Consortium biology with human tactical thinking. The Krill contributed their natural camouflage abilities. The Ravi brought superior visual processing. The Talon offered telepathic communication. The humans provided what they had always relied on: adaptability, endurance, and a stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Not everyone welcomed this change. On the Consortium homeworld of Luminara, protests erupted outside the Central Council chambers. Humans will make us into warriors, the signs proclaimed. Peace is our way. Inside those same chambers, Ambassador Tak defended the new alliance. The Veric do not ask if we wish to fight, he reminded the council. They give us only the choice of how we will lose, unless we learn to defend ourselves. 3 months later, Tak visited Earth for a diplomatic reception. The event took place in a garden in Geneva, where the first contact had occurred years earlier. Humans and representatives from 22 Consortium species mingled under open skies. Tak found the gravity still uncomfortable, but no longer debilitating. Earth's ambassador had thoughtfully provided hovering chairs for species that struggled with the planet's pull. As he observed the gathering, Tak noticed something interesting. The humans behaved differently toward Consortium members who had trained with them compared to newer arrivals. There was an easy familiarity, protective gestures, shared jokes. Officer June approached, carrying 2 glasses of a mild earth beverage. "Have you noticed?" Tak asked him, indicating a human officer who had positioned herself between an elderly Krill diplomat and a rowdy group of Earth officials. Her posture was relaxed but alert. "They're different when they consider you part of their group," Tak noted. "Protective, fierce on behalf of allies." June nodded. "Pack predators. They evolved to hunt in groups. Their loyalty to the pack is absolute." He sipped his drink. "In the mixed units, they've begun using the term packmate for their non-human teammates. And the non-humans, they've adopted the term as well. It carries meaning beyond mere ally or colleague." 3 weeks later, the Veric Empire launched what they intended to be their decisive offensive. 60 warships targeted the Talon homeworld, a strategic location that would open 5 Consortium systems to invasion. General Kraz, restored to command despite his failure at Junction Station, felt confident. His intelligence suggested the defense would consist primarily of Talon ships, with perhaps a few human vessels in support. The Talon were physically weak, relying on technology and telepathy. They would fall quickly. Instead, his fleet encountered something new: mixed battle groups that combined Talon telepathic coordination, Krill stealth technology, Ravi targeting systems, and human battle tactics. The defenders moved as if sharing one mind, but fighting with the strengths of a dozen species. The battle lasted just 14 hours. The Veric retreat became a rout. General Kraz did not survive to report his failure. In the aftermath, Intelligence Officer Min presented her analysis to the astonished council. Holographic displays showed the battle's key moments when different species had worked together in ways previously thought impossible. "What we're seeing is a new form of warfare," Min explained. "The humans call it pack tactics. Each species contributes its natural advantages. The humans provide the strategic framework and the will to fight." Counselor Ba, long skeptical of human intentions, looked troubled. "Could this not make them dangerous, if they can command our forces so effectively?" Min shook her head. "That's what I found most interesting. Humans don't seek conquest. They seek to protect what they consider theirs. And they now consider the Consortium theirs." She displayed footage from after the battle. Humans treating wounded Talon, sharing rations with Krill fighters, working alongside Ravi engineers to repair damaged ships. In every case, Min continued, The humans showed the same protective behavior toward non-human packmates as toward other humans. No distinction, no hierarchy based on species. Ambassador Tak watched the footage with growing understanding. What had begun as a military alliance was becoming something more. The humans' greatest strength wasn't their resilience or their tactical thinking. It was their capacity to extend their fierce protective instincts beyond their own kind. On the Defiance, Captain Sun awarded commendations to 3 crew members, 1 human, 1 krill, 1 Ravi, who had worked together to save a damaged transport during the battle. Today, we showed the Veric something they cannot understand. Sun told her assembled crew, "Not just our weapons or our tactics, but our unity. We fight not just for ourselves, but for each other." The crew responded with a cheer that translated across 7 different languages, but carried the same meaning. The pack had hunted together, and the pack had won. The Veric Emperor paced in his throne room, his claws clicking against the polished stone floor. Holographic displays showed the latest battle reports. Defeat after defeat, his once mighty empire was crumbling at the edges. "These humans," he growled to his advisors, "they were unknown just years ago. How have they turned the consortium against us so effectively?" His war minister bowed low. "They fight like nothing we've seen before, Emperor. And worse, they've taught the consortium species to fight like them." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He had not ruled for 70 years by accepting defeat. "If we cannot conquer them," he declared, "we will cripple them. Prepare the fleet, all ships. We strike at Luminara itself." The news of the Veric's desperate plan reached the consortium through intelligence networks. The Central Council convened an emergency session. "They come with everything they have," announced Defense Minister Su. "Over 200 warships. They mean to destroy our capital." The council chamber fell silent. Even with their new tactics and mixed species forces, such an attack would be devastating. Admiral Kim stepped forward. The human commander had risen quickly through the ranks after the successful defense of the Talon homeworld. Her expression was calm, her uniform simple compared to the ornate robes of the council members. "Let them come," she said. "We are ready." 3 days later, the massive Veric fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Luminara. The beautiful blue-green world lay before them, its rings glittering in the sunlight. The Veric Emperor himself commanded from the flagship. "Where are their defenses?" he demanded, studying the tactical displays. Luminara's orbital platforms showed minimal activity. Only a small defensive fleet appeared to be in position. "Perhaps they've retreated," suggested his second-in-command. "Or they didn't have time to prepare." The Emperor felt a surge of satisfaction. "Begin the attack run. Target their government centers first." As the Veric fleet moved forward in attack formation, Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the consortium flagship Unity. Around her, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked with practiced efficiency. "The Veric have taken the bait," reported her tactical officer, a krill whose skin shifted colors with excitement. "They believe our forces are minimal." Kim nodded. "They expect us to defend," she told her captains through the fleet-wide communication system. "We will meet them halfway." At her command, the true consortium fleet revealed itself. Ships emerged from hiding behind Luminara's moons. Others decloaked from positions within the planet's rings. Some had been disguised as civilian vessels. The Veric suddenly found themselves surrounded. But numbers were still on the Veric side. A desperate battle began. In the Central Council chamber, converted now to a war room, the consortium leaders watched the battle unfold through holographic displays. Ambassador Tak stood beside Councillor Ba, both silent as the fighting intensified. The Veric fought with their traditional ferocity, but the consortium forces displayed something new: human tactical thinking, combined with the natural abilities of a dozen species. Krill ships used their camouflage to approach undetected. Ravi gunners with their compound eyes hit targets with impossible accuracy. Talon telepaths coordinated attacks across vast distances. And the humans led them all, their ships pushing into the heart of the Veric formation, refusing to retreat even when damaged. After 6 hours of fighting, the Veric Emperor faced the unthinkable. His fleet was being systematically destroyed, not through overwhelming force, but through superior tactics and coordination. "We must retreat," urged his war minister, "while we still can." The Emperor's pride warred with his survival instinct. Finally, he gave the order. "Signal surrender. Save what ships we can." On the Unity, Admiral Kim received the surrender message. "All ships, cease fire," she ordered. "Accept their surrender. Prepare to receive prisoners." In the council chamber, Councillor Bod watched with surprise as the human forces stopped their attack immediately. Many Veric ships remained intact, though damaged. "We could destroy them completely," he noted to Ambassador Tak. "End the Veric threat forever." Tak shook his head. "That's not their way. Predators know when to stop hunting." "Will the Veric understand such mercy?" "They will learn," Tak said simply. In the 5 years that followed, humanity's position within the consortium evolved dramatically. Once feared as dangerous predators, they became regarded as guardians. Their military academies trained officers from across the galaxy. Their diplomatic corps mediated conflicts. Their innovative approaches to problems transformed consortium society. The Veric Empire, reduced but not destroyed, signed a peace treaty after 2 years of negotiations. Their emperor, humbled but alive, agreed to strict limitations on military expansion. On the 10th anniversary of humanity's first contact with the consortium, a grand ceremony took place on Luminara. Representatives from 87 species gathered in the Great Hall. The Veric sent observers, still wary but no longer hostile. Councillor Jun, now the head of the Central Council, addressed the gathering. 10 years ago, we discovered a species that evolved on a world we would consider uninhabitable. We watched with concern as they joined our community. We feared what they might become." She paused, looking at the human delegation. "We failed to understand that sometimes the greatest predators make the most dedicated protectors." Admiral Kim, now the head of the Combined Defense Force, accepted the honor on behalf of humanity. Her uniform bore the emblems of a dozen consortium worlds alongside Earth's. "We've always known who we are," she said simply. "Defenders of our own. And now, our own includes all of you." After the ceremony, Ambassador Tak found himself on a balcony overlooking the celebration. The hall below was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Humans mingled freely among them, no longer viewed with suspicion but with respect, and, in many cases, affection. Officer Jun, now a diplomat himself, joined Tak at the railing. "Did you ever imagine this when you first visited Earth?" he asked. Tak considered the question. "I feared them," he admitted. "I saw only the predator." And now, below, a human child played with a young krill, their laughter needing no translation. "Now I understand what we gained," Tak said. "For millennia, the consortium species evolved as prey, always looking for safety, for compromise, for ways to avoid conflict. Humanity showed us another path, not endless war, but the strength to defend what matters." June nodded. "The galaxy is changing." "For the better," Tak replied. "The predators have become protectors, and the prey have learned to stand their ground." In the years that followed, the consortium would face new challenges, new threats from beyond the known regions of space. But they would face them together, with humanity at their side, not as conquerors, but as the fierce guardians of a peaceful order. The end.